Welcome back to another episode of the Online Course Elevator podcast. I am excited to be joined today by Danielle Wallace, who does done for you copywriting services as well as copywriting coaching through her program. Thank you so much for joining us today, Danielle.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me on the podcast. Such a honor to be here.
The honor is all mine. So I'd love if you just get started telling us about yourself, what you do, and kind of how you got into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do done for you copywriting, and I coach people, coaches rather, how to write email copy as well. So most of my clients are online coaches who I help with, amping up the power of storytelling in their content. And why storytelling? It's because I feel like there is a big gap in it in the online coaching space. It's a great way to make yourself different, make yourself stand out, right? Because sometimes everything just sounds the same. And so, how I got started in this, well, but before I started my copywriting and storytelling business, I was a TV news reporter in Central and Southeast Alabama. And it was during that time where, obviously I honed in on a lot of my storytelling skills that I was already passionate about. And I saw the need here as well. While I was working in news, a lot of my experience in terms of like email marketing, social media marketing, all of that came from like a simple blog that I started way back in 2013 that's now still going as an online magazine for Christian women. And so it was during that time where I honed in on those skills and basically took everything that I knew from that and from TV news and just put it all together to help online coaches in this space. So in a nutshell, that's how I got to this point.
No, it's really great. I mean, it's funny what our experiences end up leading us to, isn't it? I'm sure you did a ton of storytelling and things while you were a news reporter, but you probably didn't think, oh, this is what I'm going to go on to do for the rest of my life at that time. So I mean, did you fall in love with storytelling? Is it, just something that you innately know that you love to do?
Yeah, like, ever since I can remember, like just from when I was a child or whatnot, that was something that I already liked and I was already passionate about, right? I was one of those kids. I was a nerd. I would write fictional stories in journals or whatnot. I read a lot of books, just did a lot of reading. I loved hearing about different stories. If you remember those like chicken soup for the soul books, like
Yeah.
yeah, like those back in the day, like I used to love those. So I really love storytelling and, just in my spare time, just making up stories on my own. And just, from a very young age, I already knew, okay, that's the kind of direction that I want to go in. And I also love consuming information, which I guess that's why it led me to news because I like consuming information and I like telling different stories. So, that's why I zoned in from there. I've been very passionate about it from a very young age. So.
That's really awesome. So, yeah, and I think that's important to really pick you know, go down a path that you're passionate about. So, but there's a couple things there. I think a lot of course creators and online businesses and coaches, they forget to tell stories, right? They
Mhm.
forget to take the time to either think about an experience they've had and align it with their audience and use that as a story, or to
Mhm.
take the time to understand their customer story and to put
Right.
that into some kind of format that
Mhm.
the customer can understand, that the customer can put themselves into when they're
Right.
thinking about their coaching program or something like that. I
Right.
think it's a lost art for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
And so do you help a lot of what kind of industries coaches do you tend to help?
So I have worked with a variety, money coaches, finance coaches, business coaches, career coaches, wellness coaches, everybody, basically, like all of them. I've even worked with a few product-based brands and nonprofits, but the majority of people that come to me are those online coaches who really want to stand out in that capacity.
Okay. Do you feel like the storytelling aspect adds a lot of power to their sales material, to
Mm.
their even probably their content, I'm sure?
Yeah, absolutely. So like the biggest way that yeah, it makes a difference all the way around. But online coaches, course creators, you have email sequences, launch sequences for courses and programs, right? It definitely comes in handy there because it's a sequence, obviously, but you can definitely you're supposed to take people on a journey anyway in marketing, but through those email sequences when you're selling a course or a program, it definitely has an impact there, the way that you write it and lay it out from the very beginning. Even something as well, it's not simple, but even is something like somebody signing up to your email list, like they receive a welcome sequence, right? Like that's for one of the first touch points they receive from you in your email content. And that is a great way to incorporate storytelling as well. Like, introducing who you are, what you do, why you do it, telling them more about, your what you offer, whatever, and why it's important. Just taking people on a journey in that capacity is very important. So it definitely comes in handy, and and like the email content, like welcome sequences, launch sequences, even like evergreen sequences that you might have.
Okay. What kind of stories would you say that you have your coaches like tell the most? How do you get them to dig down into that, and what kind of stories are those?
So those would definitely be the personal stories where you're sharing like even your own struggles or challenges, or even yeah, stuff like that. Stuff that you might feel uncomfortable to share with people, but at the end of the day, we are all human, and you're not the expert in what you do if you didn't overcome different challenges and roadblocks, just like your target audience, right? So I usually ask anybody that I'm working with, if I'm writing your content for you or if I'm teaching you how to write email content, I'm asking you tons of questions to get that necessary information out, because you can turn it around. It might not make sense at first, but you can turn it around where it relates. Well, circle it back around to your ideal client or customer, where it relates to them, right? So, any type of challenges, setbacks, doubts, or whatever, how can your ideal client or customer relate to that? Those are definitely like stories that can that can like pull people in because it has an emotional impact.
Yeah, so I hear you saying a couple of things there is one, be vulnerable and be okay with the fact that you're human and you've made mistakes or you've gone through hard times, and the fact that you came through that hard time is what makes you qualified to help these people. And
Mhm.
so the second thing I kind of hear you saying is turn that into a mirror for your audience. Show them how, they can see themselves in you, in your program, in what you're teaching, so that they can really, uh, I guess, really understand the solution and align with what you're trying to help them achieve. Does that sound right?
Exactly. Yes. That's the whole point of that. And like I said, some people try to steer away from it because they might feel like, oh, I don't want to make it seem like I am, I don't know, I'm not a good enough person to be teaching them or something like that. Or I don't want them to know my failures for whatever reason. But I promise, like it's something that you overcame. It gives them hope that of what's on the other side as well. And it just allows you to stand out. Because I mean, let's face it, like this online space, it's a lot of noise out there. How can you stand out? Like what can you share that's going to make you stand out?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think something that reminds me of is like people buy from people.
Hmm.
And it's it's easy to think, oh, I have to put on this face, this mask, or this persona of being this well put together person who's going to help
Mhm.
you get, I think Tony Robbins. But if you like, he's all well put together and telling you how to do life. But if you really break Tony Robbins down and you listen to all his stuff, like he's been through the crap, he's
Mhm.
been through it all. And you have to start telling that story of how you went through it. And so no, I really like that. I think that's really powerful. Um, a lot of course creators, I feel like they get stuck in copywriting and storytelling because it is their personal brand. It's really
Mhm.
personal to them, and they're probably worried about um blemishing it, I get, or kind of
Yeah.
hurting it to an extent. What's your advice for people who are worried about that kind of thing?
Just like I said, it's if you want to stand out, you got to think about that. Do I want to blend in or do I want to stand out, right? Uh, that's the first thing. Like, and then you'll probably be like, okay, no, I don't want to blend in. So, let me figure this out. So, my advice is, and I'm big on like writing prompts too. This can help you. Like get your mind to thinking about what is it that I can share with people. So maybe like come up with some writing prompts if you can. Sometimes I share this types of stuff on like social media or whatever, like some
Oh,
random writing prompts, some type of prompts or whatever to get you thinking like, okay, like I can share that. And this is definitely a type of story that I can point people back around to what I have to offer them, right? So writing prompts are very helpful. Um, just thinking, okay, do I really want to stand out or do I really want to blend in? And to me, I think that will calm your nerves because it's like, no, I don't want to sound the same as everybody else. I want to stand out, right? So writing prompts, those will help you if you are one of those people like, I don't know what to say. I don't even know where to start or whatever. You can even like, search for some writing prompts if you want to, like online, or there are different books that have writing prompts or whatnot. And you're like, okay, I can circle this back around to my audience and
sure.
what I can share with them. So
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I love writing prompts. I love anything that makes me kind of dig into myself
mm-hmm.
and analyze a situation I've been in, because it's really hard to sit down in front of your, Google Doc and say, "All right, I have to write an email." And so if you take some time in your free time, or instead of sitting down to write that email and do some of those writing prompts, it'll start to dig up some ideas, some memories, some really relatable stories that you can pull out. I totally agree. And I hope everyone heard she, plugging her social media, go check out her social media for her writing prompts. And so, yeah, I think that's great advice. This is probably seems like a challenging question. Where would you say the most important places that people need to really focus on this storytelling content?
Right. So the most important place. So while all of them are important, right? All of them are important because I really do believe that you can use storytelling like in all of your marketing content, from your website, your sales page, to your email, to your social. And I really believe at this point, in the world that we are in right now, as you're recording this, I think that your email content is the biggest place that you can hone in on storytelling. I say that because, um, you know, you just can't, you got to step outside of the box of social media. If you're one of those people that are tuning in and I'm just placing all my stuff on social media. You got to get out of that mindset frame and really zone in on email marketing. The two can work together. But I really feel like the people who sign up to your email list, those people they're invested in what you really have to say. They've taken time out of their busy day to sign up to your email list to hear, read, or whatever more from you. And I feel like they deserve more exclusive content, and you can really zone in on storytelling there, like every week or however often that you send your email. So I think that email is the most important place right now.
Yeah, and I would probably agree with that, because if you look at it, if you look at your different channels in like layers,
Hmm.
social media might be where they discover you and they're like, oh, this person's kind of interesting, and they might watch a few videos or something like that. Um, as they start to see that you really have some value to provide, because that's what you have to show first is value, then they may
Hmm.
want to get closer to you. And then they might
Hmm.
actually say, okay, I like this person enough to let them into my email, right? And
Right.
so at that point, from what I hear you saying, is that's when we should be telling the stories. That's when we should really be kind of letting another layer of ourselves come out, and allowing them to get closer to ourselves. And I've seen that evidence too, in email marketing. It's like people prefer a story about the course creator, the expert, whatever it is, a day in the life, something that they experienced, a story from their past that was really hard for them to talk about, or a struggle that was hard for them to overcome.
Hmm.
And like we said, kind of aligning that humanity with the audience. So yeah, I
Yeah.
would say, email marketing too. I would agree with that. And I think sales pages are important too,
Yes.
because it's a different kind of story, right? Like,
Hmm.
it's a little bit more of, are you in this situation kind of
Hmm.
story. You don't want to talk about yourself on a sales page, but you want to kind of form a story for the person potentially buying your product, right? So
Right. Yeah. It's like it's definitely like sales page is like painting the picture. It's a really painting a big portrait of what's on the other side of joining something or opting into your offer. Like it's a giant portrait of transformation.
yeah,
What can this offer? How can it help this person? So
yeah.
it's definitely important in sales pages.
Yeah. And I think that's a story in itself. Like, the transformation is a huge story that people don't tell enough. Usually
Hmm.
they're more focused on how long is the course, what is it going to
Yeah.
teach you, blah blah blah, instead of, when you get done with this course, you will be able to dot 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 dot, you know,
Right.
and really having that transformative hero image, and then maybe a story about how it transforms people. So yeah, I think that's very true. I
Yeah, exactly. Uh-huh.
Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say that that's one reason why I like to remind people to, just document their experience with anybody who invests in their programs or their courses, right? Like, how were you able to take someone from point A to point B? People love to know, like, love to hear those client transformation stories. Not just most of us, we have quotes from people on our website that show a testimonial, but you can also go further than that and capture what this person, the transformation from this person, like just, interview them, talk to them, ask them, how did your course or program help them, and make sure kind of that you document how or where were they at before actually joining your course or program.
Yes. Yeah, and that's something I really like too, is forming a testimonial into a story. I think is
Mhm.
important. Like you said, where were they at before they started? Where did they want to be? What did the course or program do for them, and where are they now? So that you really have that, like, beginning, middle, and end,
Mhm.
and show that it's not just you as the course creator or the coach that have reached this success, but you're helping other people do it. So yeah, I think that's super important too. And
Mhm.
something too, when we were talking a little bit about before we turned the recording on, is that we both wish we had documented ourselves more, in our process of, like, building up to this. And so I think that's something just to kind of mention too, is take the time to turn on your camera every once in a while, and even just talk about what you're going through, or whether you keep a journal or something like that, document what you're going through personally as the creator. And those stories, as you go back and look at them, those are going to be like, you'll be able to align those with the struggles of your audience, and your audience will
Mhm.
appreciate it too, right?
Exactly. Yes. Definitely so. And like when I started this business, yeah, that definitely set in like, okay, that is definitely something that I need to be doing, right? So that is a must, and it connects with people, right? It is a it is a very important aspect of what you do. It's a way, again, to stand out. Like, okay, this is how they do stuff, or this is what they've been going through or whatnot. I can relate to that. And it also helps, they're seeing that, they're seeing the finished product that you're putting out there. So it's a win for you when you start documenting your process and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what's hard for people is, like we talked about earlier, being vulnerable, but still understanding that that doesn't take away from their attractiveness to the audience,
Right.
and I mean, I know it's hard for me. It's like, okay, do I talk about this problem that I'm having? I'm the guy that's supposed to be fixing problems. Am I allowed to have problems? But you
Right.
are. You're allowed to
Right.
have problems. You're allowed to talk about, what's frustrating to you. And as you conquer those problems or show problems that you've conquered, it just adds to your credibility.
It does. I mean, sometimes I go through that too. Like after I have finished writing content for clients and strategizing and stuff like that, like usually on Fridays, that's when I work on my marketing content. And sometimes, like I'll even get stuck. I'm like, I don't know if it's because I've been working on everything else the whole week, but like I'll write a whole email copy or whatnot that I plan to send out to my email list. I might scrap the whole thing. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna start over. Like I'll have like, I don't like this, right? I did that to a podcast episode. Like this is what I'm gonna talk about. Wrote out the outline or whatnot. I looked back at it earlier today and I was like, I don't want to talk about that next week. Like I'm like, I know I put in the work in trying to figure that out, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
know.
we all have struggles.
That's what we do. We're all human. We all have struggles. I mean, I do the same thing. I've been struggling over a lead magnet, something to, it's like, okay, I know all about lead magnets. And
Yep.
yet I'm sitting here, and it's because it's our own personal business, right? And
Right.
that's why it's great to have a coach or somebody like you, or just somebody like whatever you struggle with, get somebody to help guide you if you can, because it's always going to be harder doing it for yourself.
It
It,
is. It is. It doesn't matter who you are, like what type of expert you are. You always need another expert in your corner to help you, right?
yeah, definitely. So I understand that you have kind of a three-step framework that you use. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, so the first part of it is defining, right? And I came up with this three-part process because I figured, like, in the very beginning stages of my business, right? Obviously, if you're working with a copywriter or somebody, you're going to ask them, how do you understand my brand voice? How do you understand this? People want to know, how are you able to do this, right?
Mhm.
And so I came up with this process, largely because of, to ease any types of concerns or fears people might have when they have somebody help them in terms of writing or either strategizing, right? And so this process, basically I took what I learned in news and merged it into the copywriting and video storytelling world. And so the first part of it is defining, meaning it's important for me to have clarity about your brand's goals and needs. Like I need to know it from the inside out. And I expect you to know, I expect you to know the basics of your brand as well. But I also have to have that clarity. So I like to ask the necessary questions that I need. So before any project, I'm asking people tons of questions. That's also a big thing from my previous career. Like I know how to ask you the right questions to get to the point, right? Sometimes people have told me like, oh, that's a tough question. And it's meant to be a tough question because it's something that, oh, I never thought of this before. And that's important because we need to share this, whatever it is that I'm asking you, and we need to share this with your audience. The second part is strategizing. I'm big on strategy. Like if you don't have a strategy, like it's not gonna turn out right. So like even before I can write your email content, but before I even write it, or I can write your social media content, before I even write it, I want to make sure that we have a solid strategy nailed down, right? So making sure that I am getting to the root of your brand's messaging, basically in order to drive action. So I might go through and look at what you've already done, or what don't you like about what you've already done, stuff like that. And then the last part of it is extracting, meaning compiling all of your brand's attributes to extract the most compelling facts and turn them into a cohesive narrative. Because I say this often, that facts and statistics, like anybody can throw those out there, right? Like we can even Google them. So, but we need to turn this around where it is, some sort of, narrative that makes sense for your brand and makes you stand out. So that is how that process goes.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I think that's really important. I don't think enough people, I think the strategy is a hard part for a lot of people because I think they get into this not really knowing what they want to do. And so it's
Mhm.
really, if they don't have like an end point that they're aiming for, it can be hard to build that strategy backwards of how to get there. And that's
Right.
all a strategy is. It's okay, this is where we want to go. This is how we're going to get there. So I think that's really great that I'm sure you get a lot of people who it brings a little bit more cohesiveness to their business, even though all you're helping with copywriting. It probably brings a lot of cohesiveness uh, to other areas as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. It helps in, their social media content, even like their especially like if you are have a course and you're sending out like an email sequence, it helps there. Like it's helpful all the way around. Even like I help people like with their um people that like to like want to show up on video with their content as well. I help them like strategize that piece as well. Like, it's just helpful across the board. Strategy is everything.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, great. Well, if someone's excuse me, if someone's listening to this and they're saying, "Oh, I love this. I just want to know how to get started." Do you have any free resources, or where would you suggest they go to begin learning this, or like working with you? What would be the next step for somebody?
Yeah, so I have a free resource right now. I usually this year I kind of challenged myself. So after you listen to this episode, you might want to go grab this because I'm changing my free resources out like every quarter. But right now, this resource is templates, email templates that you can use for your email marketing, right? And they're actually like story driven email templates. So they're there to help you like get your mind to turning on what I could, I can fill this in and or go by this as a guide to get me going in the right direction. I believe it has some prompts as well that you can use for your email content and video content. And I called it the Storyteller's Starter Kit. Basically, it's to help you, try and get on track to doing things the right way, right? So that is available. You go to my website and you can instantly download it. And if you want, more free resources or more free advice rather than, once you get it, you'll be on my email list. I show up for my email subscribers like twice a week. I do, share different, like share advice or whatnot, kind of to shift their perspective about copywriting and video storytelling. So
Okay, I'll make sure to get on that email list for sure.
yeah.
That's great. Is there anything else you want to that I didn't ask you that I should have asked, or that you want to leave the listeners with?
No, I think you asked all the good questions. But if you are tuning in, just, think about whether you want to blend in or whether you want to stand out. Because, personally, like if I'm on social media or even like some emails that I've signed up for, I've unsubscribed. Like, I don't know, because people start to sound the same. I don't know. Like, I guess people feel like, okay, I need to be talking about this because so and so is talking about this. But
Yeah.
just really think about how can I stand out in, all of my content all the way around, because that is what's going to sell your course. Like, hands down, it's going to sell your course.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think be authentic, be yourself. That's what's going, and translate that into how you communicate with people. And that's going to sell yourself better. And it's a process. It takes time. But yeah, I definitely
Mhm.
agree with what you're saying is stand out, don't blend in. So all right,
Right.
Danielle. Well, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, it was great having you on.